Hey guys, so this is IB History of the Americas, and this is our flip lesson that I'm going to be doing with you guys today. It is going to be concentrated on propaganda, and we're going to look at the impacts that propaganda had on the Vietnam War. Now, bear with me as I fumble through things here, but I feel that this will be effective because we are going to have some time in class to go through and make our own propaganda. So please make sure you pay attention here, jot down notes and such. Find some inspiration for when you are going to create your own. Last class, we learned and discussed the domestic impacts of the Vietnam War. Okay, we're going to continue to look at the domestic impacts, but we're now going to specifically focus on propaganda. We're going to look at propaganda to give us a greater understanding of both the pro-war and the anti-war sides to the Vietnam War. We're going to basically look into how both sides perceived themselves and wanted to portray themselves, and also, of course, the other side. In essence, what we're going to hopefully be able to do through this is be able to see what each side believed, or at least wanted you to think that they believed. We're going to go through several examples of pro and anti-war propaganda, explaining each, but we're going to really focus on music specifically because it had a really large role to play in the Vietnam conflict. And I'm sure a lot of you are aware of the songs that we're going to go through, so it gives definitely some real meaning to Vietnam. After, we're going to create our own propaganda piece. I'm going to be partnering you up and such, but the key here is that your propaganda piece has to be historically accurate in that it has to show your side's point of view realistically. So, why don't we get into this? The pro and the anti-war side. Last class we mentioned hawks and doves. Okay, hawks, remember, they supported the war. They believed in the domino theory, and they felt they needed to fight communism at all fronts. Therefore, they supported the war. Whereas doves, they were anti-war. They wanted the war to end. They saw it as a failure, and they believed peace was needed. And of course, the domino theory, you can remember, it included, this is more in justification for the hawks. They believed that if, say, Vietnam was to fall, then other countries then could succumb to communism, and in Southeast Asia specifically, it could continue to fall, create a domino effect, and then eventually maybe larger countries such as India or maybe even move into Australia, and they would feel threatened by the growing strength of communism. Therefore, you had to siphon any aspects of communism. This is going right into containment theory and all of those. So, propaganda, what exactly is it? Webster defines it as the spreading of ideas, information, and rumor for the purpose of helping or injuring an institution, a cause, or a person. Propaganda has been used historically on the American side we're looking at, always to rally Americans against something that was anti-American, something that they're fighting against. So for example, in the World War II, you were fighting against Nazis. So this piece right here says, we're fighting to prevent this, and it's a Nazi. You've got the big, huge boot destroying what looks like a church. Also, it's been used against communism and the fears of communism. But specifically, what I want to look at is anti-war, okay? So as you can see here, we have a skull draped with the American flag on top of it. And if you look closely, it looks like the hat is similar to what Uncle Sam would be wearing in those pictures where you see Uncle Sam pointing, saying, we want you to join the army and such. But it seems like, considering that there's a skull underneath it with Vietnam in the eye of the skull, it's showing that Vietnam is going to be the death of America, and how they view of anything that leads to American beliefs or values or anything like that. Vietnam is the death of that. And right here is the advertisement for where they want to be meeting to march against it, to help promote that the United States gets out of the war. Now, in the Vietnam War, you see the first real examples of instead of criticizing the enemy or things like that, people are criticizing the U.S. government itself. And as you can see here, it looks like we've got people in dictatorship type of garb. We've got like a Napoleon here, like Kaiser, like a Wilhelm type of thing here. But as you can see, the leaders themselves, it looks like we've got Richard Nixon here, and behind him is Henry Kissinger as the Secretary of State and the President there. And it says stop them because they can't stop themselves. And as you can see, it's kind of implying the message that Americans are asserting their influence just as dictators were trying to take over the world. And that's how they viewed the Vietnam War. And they viewed, the protesters, they viewed themselves as needing to stop their government from acting unjustly.